The American political system is a strange and fascinating whole system to look through, and it's often been daunting to anyone who wants to directly approach it. One of the common issues that we've seen a lot over the last couple years when it comes to this system is the place of the Electoral College within it. Today on More Made Simple, we'll take a look at this system, what it does, and kind of where it falls in the modern era. Hey guys, Bill here. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're starting a brand new series that I'm calling America Explained. And what this series seeks to do is explain America in a simplified sense. What our economy does, what our politics are, and overall what the culture of this nation is, and put it in a way that makes people understand why America does certain things in certain ways. There is a method to the madness that is the United States of America. But today I want to start with the Electoral College. And the reason I want to start with the Electoral College is because we're in the middle of an election season. And the Electoral College is the single most important factor in determining who is the next president. In the United States, we do not elect our president based on the national popular vote. That sounds kind of strange to anyone outside of this country going, wait, don't you just literally count up the total number of votes and whoever gets the most is president? Yes, but no. The way that it's done is each state is given a number of electoral votes, bare minimum of 3, and we'll talk about where that number comes from in a little bit. But every single state has a certain number of electoral votes, and whoever can combine the total number of votes they get from each state to equal at minimum 270 electoral votes becomes the next president. These electoral votes are assigned to each candidate by essentially whoever wins the popular vote within each state. So state popular votes matter, but the national popular vote doesn't. This can seem counterintuitive, but there is a reason this is in place, and that's what we get into today. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the views of both parties on this issue. The Republican Party wants to defend the idea of the Electoral College. They want to support it and keep it in place. Meanwhile, the Democrats would like to remove it and replace it with a popular vote instead. Most recently, Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz of the Democratic Party has said he would remove it if his party was elected into office. So this happens every so often where we'll have a member of either Congress or an elected official or just somebody saying they want to remove the Electoral College. This isn't really anything new, but it's never happened. So why? Why is this system in place? Why hasn't it been removed? Well, it kind of comes down to how our country was founded. Back in the 1700s, the United States formed, and when it did, it was under the Articles of Confederation. This was an awful document by every metric, and by the end of the Revolutionary War, America decided it was time to replace this document. And the main reason was because you couldn't run the government. You required all 13 states to agree on something in order for it to be passed into law. If anyone knows politics, getting everyone to agree on something is nearly impossible. So a new governing document, being the Constitution, was proposed at that time. But there was a concern between states with large populations and states with small populations. The small populations were very concerned that essentially they would be pushed out, their opinions wouldn't matter, that states like Connecticut and Maryland would be overwhelmed by the larger populations of states like New York and Pennsylvania. And this was a legitimate concern. But at the same time, larger states felt that if it was equal representation, that essentially their voice wouldn't matter even though they had more of a say in terms of the population. So with both sides having very different viewpoints on this matter, there needed to be a compromise. And what was decided upon was creating a two-part legislative system, being the current modern Senate and the House of Representatives. So how do these systems work? Well, the Senate, you get 2 senators per state. Doesn't matter what your population is, could be 5 people, could be 500 million people. You will always have 2 senators per state. On the flip side, in the House of Representatives, at that time, it was decided there would be 1 representative per 30,000 people in a population. Today, that number's gone up to around 700,000. We've adjusted it to keep track with the American population growth. What this did was it allowed the large states to have their say on one side of the aisle and the small states to have their say on one side of the aisle. Both sides would have to agree for documentation on the other. So essentially, if something's approved in the House, it has to be approved in the Senate in order for it to take effect. Now, how does this affect the Electoral College? Well, the numbers for the Electoral College come from the Congress being in the Senate and the House of Representatives. Your number of senators plus your number of House representatives equals the total electoral votes of your state. So if you have 2 senators, you at bare minimum always will have 2 votes plus 1 from the House of Representatives because every single state has at least 1 representative. This means that at bare minimum, every single state has 3 electoral votes. This means that states that have a larger population don't necessarily have a majority say in how the government functions and don't have a majority say in deciding who the president is. Now, is this system still relevant today? Well, depends on who you are. If you're a farmer living in the middle of nowhere and don't really have a large population within your state, usually the answer is yes, because you want to be able to have a say in things like the presidential election. But if you're from a smaller state, you usually don't have as much of a say if it's population-based. If it's by the Electoral College, you have much more of a say. If you're from an urban environment, normally you don't like this idea because you feel that the views of your city might be being outweighed by a few random farmers in the middle of nowhere. And this makes sense when you look down party lines too, because the Republicans get more kind of support from conservative farmers and rural areas, where if you look at the Democrats, it's usually more urban areas. So it's split down party lines as much as it is down cultural lines. This is my kind of explanation of the Electoral College and why it's in place. Whatever your view on this issue is, I'm gonna let you keep that view, or maybe you changed it during the course of this video. Whatever the case, it is your view and I will always support it. But what I am gonna ask is, if you have an issue with anything that I said or something I said maybe didn't make sense, let me know in the comments below. I'm all for hearing different opinions, different views. Additionally, if I left something out and you said, Bill, that needs to be included, tell me. I'm happy to go ahead and discuss that further. Now, the future of this series is going to be kind of in flux because we're to see how well this does. I am still going to be continuing probably 2 or 3 more of these regardless, and then kind of making an evaluation from there. This will be happening at least once a month from now on. And you guys are going to be able to choose some of the different topics. There should be a poll coming up a little bit after this video, maybe the following day. We'll see what happens. But for right now, that's all I got on the Electoral College. Next time you guys see me, it'll be on Monday, where we are talking about railguns, which was selected by you guys. So I'll see you guys on Monday for our normal Tech Talks. Enjoy your weekend.